Okay, getting ready to go live stream. Okay.
Once I unpause, so y'all gonna talk. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a second.
Stand by, Joe.
Okay.
It's a second delay, so you're gonna be talking.
Yeah, there'll be a delay too on my end, but I'll hear them.
Come on. Too much.
Here we go. We're coming there. Stand by.
What you
All right, fans, welcome Sports with Rich live on YouTube through your social media platforms. And I want to welcome you in. Finally, we're live on YouTube. I'm Rich Mancuso. Of course, you can reach me Twitter, ring786, facebook.com/Rich Mancuso, as well as reading me on latinosports.com, Mets MMO, metsmemorized.com. And I'm bringing in right away my guest tonight live on YouTube, Sports with Rich, the program, Joe McDonald. He is the publisher, the original publisher still is, of NewYorkSportsDay.com, my extended family in the business. And we're going to talk baseball, Mets baseball, and Major League Baseball in general. A lot of questions to cover there. Joe, my friend, welcome in.
Thanks, Rich. Thanks for having me tonight.
It's good to have you. I want you to know. I want you to know that you are my initial guest on the program. You know that?
Hey, someone has to be it, right? Someone has to be the guinea pig.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but it's good to have you because you are as versed as anyone with not only baseball but all sports, hockey and of course tennis. I know how good you're with that. But let's talk New York Mets. We hope to be back at the ballpark this spring. We don't know right now a starting date for spring training. We don't know right now really how many games MLB will end up playing. It depends on the owners and players. But besides the San Diego Padres that have made a lot of news this offseason, the Toronto Blue Jays, the New York Mets, a team we cover all the time on the site, and they're the talk of baseball. And what do you think? How do you rate this offseason so far?
I mean, they traded for Francisco Lindor. That was the big trade of the offseason. They brought themselves in a superstar shortstop, and nobody is doubting that. The question is, are they going to sign him long term? Personally, I think they are going to do that. I don't know how, if it's going to happen anytime in the next couple of months, but Lindor has said that if he doesn't sign by opening day, he's not going to sign during the season. But we saw this last year. We saw this with the Dodgers who traded for Mookie Betts, and then we haven't heard anything. And then during the shutdown of the pandemic, Mookie signed a record contract. So you're probably going to see a similar situation with Lindor. That he will be signing, if it's not right before opening day, very close to it.
Well, I'll tell you more so. Getting Lindor does shore up their defense tremendously. It makes them a better team. And everyone's talking about Carlos Carrasco. That was a big part of that trade. And he slots right into the rotation with experience and gives them a depth in the rotation that they need. And now there's talk about Trevor Bauer because they have the money to spend now, especially dumping Steve Matz's salary. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, if you look at the Mets rotation, it all starts at the top of Jacob DeGrom. DeGrom is 32. So you want to ask yourself, how many more years is DeGrom going to have like he had the last 3 years? Remember, we saw him in 2017. He was at one level, and then he went up to another level in 2018, and he's pitched that on that other level since then. So you wonder how much longer he's going to be at that level as he's getting older and older and older. So that's the question. And if DeGrom is up at that level, you want to have a rotation around him because you've already wasted essentially 3 years in his prime. with under 500 teams. So you want to build out a rotation, and as we saw last year, the Mets rolled the dice, and it really didn't work out well with Rick Porcello and Michael Wacha. So they went out, they got a proven starter with Carrasco. They did bring back
Good point, but
qualifying over
yeah.
Marcus Stroman. So, if they can get Bauer, that puts their rotation up into the elite of baseball, especially if you think Noah Syndergaard's going to come back sometime this year and pitch up to his past performance.
Let's pose this. Yeah. Joe, if Trevor Bauer becomes a Met, and it looks, from what I heard today, talking to my sources and inside on this, the Mets are really, really into this, and the talks are ongoing. They're not far apart, and I expect Trevor Bauer to be signed. The Mets definitely have the money and the luxury tax threshold to do it and not worry about that. Not that money should be a problem with Steve Cohen, but let's assume Trevor Bauer does become a Met. Then you got DeGrom, Bauer, Stroman, you Carrasco, got to put Peterson in there, and you know what? That's pretty damn good, don't you think?
Oh yeah, don't forget they also got some depth with Joey Lucchesi as well, which they just acquired last week.
That's another guy, yeah, Lucchesi. Yeah, right. That's a sleeper.
He is a sleeper, and he's left-handed, and he could have a pretty decent year. So that's the question you want to ask yourself is, you put yourself in, and the other thing about getting Bauer is that you don't need another reliever if you get Bauer, because Bauer pitches 7 innings. And that's the thing. You can have, if you have a whole bunch of 7-inning guys, DeGrom is 7 innings. So is Bauer. Stroman can be 5 or 6, sometimes 7. Same thing with Carrasco. The question is how long can they lengthen it and shorten the bullpen for you? Getting a guy like Bauer shortens the bullpen for you.
Yeah.
That's why it's a no-brainer. You want these guys to go not just 5-6 innings, but 7 into the 8th inning, and that keeps your bullpen fresh every single day.
And Joe, they're not done by all means. And Brandon Loop in the bullpen, that was a nice pickup. That's a guy that, from what I am told, I've seen him pitch with Tampa Bay. But I have been told that he'd be just a situational left-hander out of the pen that can do the job, get the guy out that he has to get out, which they need. They didn't get that. You remember last season, even with 60-game season, the Mets were ranked next to last in bullpen ERA.
Right.
So they've definitely improved with Brandon Loop now, not Braden Looper. Remember him?
Oh, him.
Remember him? I used to call him Looper Scooper. That's what I used to call him. But I got to commend the offseason and what the Mets have done so far. And regardless or not, if they get Bauer or not, it's been a success. Sure, you'd like that you had Springer in there, and you want Bauer now, as all signs are showing towards it. But right now, would you say that this has been a very successful offseason for the Mets, and one that we haven't seen in a long, long time?
Well, yeah. And sometimes when we saw it during the World Pods, they fell flat on their face with it. Hopefully it doesn't happen this time. Remember they did something like this in 2002, which didn't work out. Then they did it in 2006, which did work out extremely well for them. In fact, they went out to the World Series. So, the question is, it's not the money. And I don't think the luxury tax is. And, every team will always say, we don't want to go over the luxury tax until they do. Because it's one of those things, no one wants to pay the extra tax, but there are 2 things in the Mets' favor about them going over the luxury tax this year. One, they never did it before. So they're going to be paying the lowest rate on the luxury tax and how much they're over it. And the second thing is the CBA is up next year, so you don't know what the luxury tax threshold will be going into the next CBA. They're probably going to raise it. So if that's the case, then they might be under the luxury tax, even with other expenditures coming next offseason, i.e., re-signing Michael Conforto and Noah Syndergaard, etc. So I think they're also going to be looking for a center fielder out there. I know they're talking about
Jackie
Jackie
Bradley's
Bradley
name is
Jr.,
coming
who
up.
I think poured beer
Yeah.
on our head, right? Or someone poured beer on our head while we were interviewing him a couple of years ago at Yankee Stadium during the celebration.
Yeah.
You remember that? And he was, if he, he's the best one out there. There's also other options. I believe it was Joel Sherman or somebody put this out there that if they can move, say, a Jarris Familiar for an Ian Desmond, it would be a wash in salary. And, you can put Desmond out there in center field because that's what he was with the Rockies the last few years. And if they don't get Bauer, they might even make a move for, say, a Chris Bryant or Nolan Arenado. But with Arenado, that means taking on a lot
I
of money.
don't know if that's a fit right now for the Mets. I don't think they want to go that route. But to get him, they have to give away more. I don't.
Well,
Who would you give away for that? Who would you give away to get Arenado?
Well, first of all, I would give them the 2 years of the contract of Cano. Let them take some money back there. Okay, remember that's $199 million they want to get out of. That's the reason why they're trading. It's not like so you can actually, if you're taking out the bulk of that salary, you don't have So let's say you take a JD Davis, a Cano, and say somebody else, say a Familiar, that might make they might make that move because Davis is controllable. They basically it's a salary dump on the other two players.
We're talking to Joe McDonald here, Sports with Rich, live on YouTube and other social media platforms. Joe is the publisher of NewYorkSportsDay.com that I'm proudly affiliated with as part of the family. I write a column there. And Joe is very versed in baseball. We cover the Mets together, and hopefully we can get back to the ballpark this spring. Joe, let's get back to the National League East, because the Mets now have shown that they are going to be a force regardless. How deep they'll go with this, I don't know, what the roster is now and what more they're going to do. I think they're going to do well. But, you got the Atlanta Braves. You still got the Nationals that improved. And, of course, the Phillies. And all three of those teams, and the pesky Marlins that are young. But all three of those top three teams, the Braves, the Nationals, and Phillies, well, they made their improvements, too, in this division. And some of the baseball people I spoke to today said this could become the toughest division in baseball. Do you agree with that?
It very well could be the toughest division in baseball. The Braves are still very good. They still may have a move or two left in the offseason. Remember, Marcell Ozuna is still out there, and, they can sign him, especially if they believe it. I believe that there's going to be a DH in the National League next year. I think the owners want it, the players want it. They're just using it as a chip in the negotiation of when the season is going to start and how the season is going to start. But I think they like I think it's a time the situation has come. I mean, I know when I was a kid and, when you were a young adult, that was a big argument for the DH or not for the DH. But I think we're past having two different leagues with two different sets of rules. So, and I think we're in a situation now that we have so much money put into these pitchers that why do you want them to get hurt on the base pads? It's just too much of a risk these days to have it. Even though there are some good hitting pitchers out there, it's just not worth it. So
we're throwing out Ozuna too. Yeah.
Right. So they may sign Marcell Ozuna, assuming that they can put him in as a DH.
Yeah. Well, that's not determined yet. Yeah.
Right. It's not determined, but I think, my gut says there will be a DH in the National League this year.
I worked the phones all day today about the DH, Joe, and the players that I spoke to said they're not sure. They're not sure about a few things. One, the DH. The other thing they're not sure about is the roster limits. They're pretty sure that the rule at second base, which is so bogus to me, Sandlot, will hold, that they're going to keep that. And that the extra inning rule with the runner at second base, as I said. And the other one would be 7-inning double headers. They're not so sure about that. But I don't want to see that second base rule. But the DH, especially for the Mets, that's got to happen. So but nobody knows anything right now. Nobody even knows when the season's going to start for sure. How many games, whatever.
The
Virus is going to dictate that.
Plus, also, the state of Arizona does not want the Cactus League to start next month. They want to push it out for 30 days because it's a very heavy infected area with the coronavirus. So remember, it's not like Florida where they're all over Florida. There, it's 2 or 3 hour road trips. All those teams, 15 teams, are within a half hour of each other. So it's they're very concentrated.
Yeah.
So
spring training won't be the same.
Right. So they're going to have to do something. And I don't think I think we're looking at a March 15th start for spring training, not a February 15th. And I think that's what baseball is doing right now. I don't think anyone's in any type of rush to start spring training.
Yeah.
The question is, can you cut spring training down for a couple of, cut spring training down, maintain the same amount of games, or at least get as many games as possible? The Players Association doesn't want to take a type of haircut. So if they cut less games, you're doing more, they're going to be paid less, prorated with their salaries, unless the owners are saying, okay, we'll pay you for the full 162, even though we're paying 145. So that's the difference there. The owners definitely want to have the expanded playoffs. They already have sponsorship for that extra round of playoffs. So they have sponsorship on it that they don't know if they're going to have or not. And the one thing they do not like is refunding money for those type of games that aren't played. So you can assume that that's going to be something that's going to be pushed in to the players too. And they enjoy two things you see it with it. One, you see less teams. What we saw last year is less teams dumping salaries at the trade deadline because there's so many more players that are in it.
Let's shift gears. Let's go cross town in New York.
Okay.
The Yankees, a team we also cover. Where is the situation as far as the Yankees with payroll? Do you believe they're going to make any more moves with the contract of Stanton tying things up and Garrett Cole's contract? But Tanaka's out, going back to Japan. They signed Corey Kluber and to follow Cole in the rotation. It looks like they might be going with a lot of the youngsters in their rotation that can do the job. We just don't know if one of them can do it or two of them can do it. And of course, their mission was to make sure they retained DJ LeMahieu, and they did. How do you rate the Yankees offseason so far? And do you think any other moves will be made there in the Bronx?
Well, I mean, they're probably making some lesser moves. They definitely need starting pitching. Severino's still a question after coming back from Tommy John surgery. Kluber's going to be a question mark for you. Garrett Cole obviously is Garrett Cole. So you got number one with Garrett. You got your number one pitcher, and then a whole bunch of question marks. Tanaka has gone back to Japan, so you don't have him. I mean, however great of a pitcher that Tanaka has been for the Yankees, you always had that question about his elbow when it would snap, and I think that's what the Yankees kind of started worried about, probably giving him another contract for this. They were thankful that they got through the last contract without any type of major injury with him. So I think with the Yankees, getting was Jameson Tolan.
Yeah,
he's that's another question mark guy that they think that they can fix and maybe bring to another level. But still, it's question marks. I mean, these guys are very unproven.
Brett Gardner. They need to read.
Well, I think they'll resign Brett Gardner. I think Brett Gardner is going to come in. He doesn't make a lot. He doesn't want a lot of money. He doesn't want to leave the Yankees. I think it's retire. With him, it's Yankees or retirement. I don't think he wants to go to another team out there. So, Cashman loves him. So I don't think there's any reason why they won't re-sign Brett Gardner for another 1-year deal. Yeah, they still. Yeah, the other bottom line that was they need starting pitching.
Well, put this into perspective now. The Yankees are always a team that to be chased in the American League East and the American League overall. And yet, the team that made all the noise in the last few weeks, the Toronto Blue Jays. Tampa Bay dismantled the roster. Glasgow and Snell are out, and elsewhere. And now the Toronto Blue Jays have fortified themselves into being, a contender for sure. They were last year, but they're young, and they've got some viable starting pitching. And, their bullpen is the one thing they got to work on. That's it.
Well, that's the thing. The Toronto Blue Jays had, brought up a nice young core. So you had a nice young core of players. Vlad Jr. was a third. They had a few other nice young guys, and so you have this core that needs to learn how to win. So now they're doing step two. Step two is bring in some veteran free agents to show them the way. That's the reason why they really wanted Springer, because Springer historically may not be the best statistical center fielder in baseball, but he's a winner. And he needs to, he's brought in to show these other kids how to win. So that's the big thing with him. They took a couple of question marks on with their starting pitching. The biggest one, obviously, is they took Steven Matz off the Mets' hands. But, they might have seen something there that they're saying, hey, this kid could actually turn around. He might be mechanical adjustments or just in the head, being north of the border might help him instead of being, an hour away from home. That might help Mats in the long term. So there's a lot of, moving parts there, and they definitely moved up into the conversation there, and don't count out Tampa Bay. I mean, they signed Michael Wacha, right, who was terrible last year at the Mets. And raise your hand if you don't think he's going to have 12 or 13 wins this year in Tampa Bay.
Good point.
They'll turn him around. It's going to be like it's going to be like St. Louis in 2013. It's pretty simple with him. So to me, that's the American League East. You have those two teams. The Yankees are still going to be competitive. Boston looks like it's rebuilding, and the Orioles are the Orioles, and sometimes can't get out of their own way.
But I think the American League East, the complexion changes even more now with the strength of the Blue Jays. And as much as Tampa Bay dismantled, there's still a young, good team. But, I still think the Rays have some pieces. And, of course, we don't know where the start, when to start, I'm
trying to trade their pitchers, though. They didn't trade any major. The core is still there. So, the question is, can you get what they traded, can you replace? And what they got back, will it eventually be better than what they traded? That's the question. So,
they always are. They are.
They are. They're very good at identifying low value pieces and making them into high value pieces.
Okay, so let me, Joe. I'm talking to Joe McDonald, publisher, NewYorkSportsDay.com. Joe, if I had to ask you now, I'm going to put you on the line with the Mets. Do they end up with Trevor Bauer?
Right now, I'm going to say yes. The Angels, who look like their major competition, has bowed out. I don't think if Bauer wants a 7 or 8 year deal, it's not going to happen with the Mets. Sandy Alderson is not going to give that to him. He just doesn't believe in giving pitching those long-term deals. So he's not going to do that. So what he will do is if he takes a high value 3 or 4 year deal, that's what he, in the $35-36 million range as an annual salary, that might be the situation. The question is, if not the Mets, then who? And the Dodgers could do it. I mean, And the Dodgers might say, hey, we get Bauer for a short-term deal too, because I don't
Right.
think they're going to look for a long-term deal because they have a lot of guys that they need to re-sign. I mean,
Right.
Walter Buehler is going to leave, coming up for a deal eventually. So, Clayton Kershaw, how much does he have left? So they're starting. He would fit nicely in the Dodgers. Surprisingly, the Angels said they don't want Bauer because he doesn't get along with Mickey Callaway.
No, that's the
Right,
report. We're hearing that. I tried to reach out to Mickey Callaway about that. He has not been able to get back to me as of yet. Maybe he will. Maybe he won't. Joe, we're going to wrap this up in a moment, and it's great talking baseball. I want to touch bases with you on Sports with Rich here about some other things. But the one team, though, the Mets have to be thankful they're not in their division, because this team, the San Diego Padres, they are really, really strong, and they keep getting stronger every day. And my favorite pitcher on that team in the rotation, you and I know him well because of the press box at Citi Field. We love shouting out his name, Lament.
This is true,
but he's just one of them. I mean, they've got Blake Snell there.
You just
Blake Snell, and they've got Yu Darvish, and you can go on and on. I talked to one of their front office executives today, and he told me, he said, we're not done. We just got to fill in a few more pieces. And my favorite guy in their lineup, of course, is Fernando Tatis Jr., who's only going to get better and better. He's only 21 years old. But the Mets have to be fortunate that the Padres are not in their division. They won't be playing them 18 times. And again, we don't even know what the schedule is going to look like anyway.
Right.
But still, the Padres are making that division look like it's going to be theirs with the Dodgers. And, I'll tell you, the Giants, too. I mean, the National League West is not going to be weak as well. They're going to be good, too.
Well, I mean, the Diamondbacks, it's always surprise. And, and Colorado looks like it's rebuilding. But
yeah,
the thing is with the Padres and the Toronto Blue Jays, right? You brought those two teams up. What was the biggest thing about them in the last number of years? They built their farm systems.
Right.
You can argue that they tanked to build their farm systems up. And now that their farm systems are built, they're able to go out, trade for the farm system when a big scale
that's so
available,
important.
or take Yu Darvish's money on because the core is already there. I mean, they still have Manny Machado on that team. Isn't Hosmer on that team too, the former Royal first baseman?
Right.
So they have a lot of good young players. They have some veterans mixed in. They brought in a few extra pieces this year. So I think it's, they want to compete with the Dodgers.
Right.
But the Dodgers are the world champions. That's a stacked lineup, a stacked team, and a stacked organization. So it's going to be interesting to see which is the reason why baseball likes to have an expanded playoffs.
Yeah.
Because now you can now you're pretty much guaranteed.
And that's the other thing that's holding up things, an expanded playoff system. We just don't know. Everything's up in the air, but that's going to all come to fruition soon. Joe, let's jump sports real quick. Let's quickly go over a few other things, especially New York and beyond. And of course, the Super Bowl's next weekend down in Tampa. The first time the home team is going to be playing in the Super Bowl. Tom Brady just never fails to disappoint anyone, including me. And I think it's going to be a pretty damn good game. Our buddy Scott Engel, who we know real well, our football guru expert, he likes Kansas City. Who do you like?
Well, let's put it this way. I'm not a big Brady fan, never have been. I don't like to kneel down and kiss the rings. So I'm going Kansas City. Patrick Mahomes, his dad from his days in the Mets. So you got to root for you got to root for your guy that you know.
I also like the moves that the Jets made. I like the new coach, Salah. And the question is Sam Darnold, does he return? What do you think? What are you hearing? You're on the NFL beat as well. What are you hearing about Sam Darnold's future here in New York?
I think the question is, will they go out and try to trade for Deshaun Watson? Who just
that's the other thing. You jumped ahead.
Okay,
yeah.
Who just told the Texans he wants a trade.
Yeah, he wants to come here. Do you think he will?
I mean, it depends on the package they can get. Football is a little different than it's like,
Yeah.
there's a salary cap in football. Most teams are going to be able to afford a contract that they want. So you don't
Yeah.
have to worry about it's not like baseball where Nolan Arenado has to set so much money that there's only a few teams that can
Right.
afford him. Pretty much every team can afford him if they wanted to. It depends on the
Right.
package they get back. Now the thing is, the Jets have everything that the Texans probably want in terms of number one draft picks because they have 3 this year in the first round, including the number 2 overall pick. And they also can maybe even throw Donald in, or if they happens to don't trade Donald, they can
Right.
move Donald.
Where do they
elsewhere later
go,
on.
Joe? Where did they go in the draft in April? What did they do?
Well, I honestly think it all depends. If you get Watson, you can keep Watson. Personally, if it was me, I would go offensive line because you can live with Sam Donald if you can give him protection. You give him 4 or 5
right.
seconds behind the
Right.
to throw the ball. You're going to get a guy open.
Right.
And you see that guys who are mediocre quarterbacks, and the biggest thing is these guys who are mediocre quarterbacks or middle of the road quarterbacks, they call them game managers because, they're not going to make mistakes. But why don't they make mistakes? Is their offensive line is so good. And they're not rushing throws. They're not being pressured. They have their time. The Jets already took an offensive tackle this past year.
Right.
With the number 1 pick. If they take another one this year, bookend them, keep them there for 10 years. It's the reason why the first few years of when they had Chad Pennington, who wasn't anyone's greatest quarterback in the world,
No.
they went to the playoffs all the time.
But he had guys he could target the ball to. That's what he had.
Right. But they had a great offensive line.
And now,
Mark Sanchez, they had a great offensive line for the first
now, to win in the NFL, 2 things important. Got to have the right coach, and you got to have the quarterback. And we're seeing that every year now, more recently.
Well, I don't. You can say you have to have the right quarterback. Well, first, let's know if they have the right coach. We're not going to know if Salah is the right coach or not. He said the right things.
I think he's a good
pick.
He's
a smart guy.
I think they picked a good coach. I like it.
You know what? And you could be 100% right. But we're not going to know until
they play it out.
Until they play. I mean, that's the thing. Did anyone think Joe Judge was going to be a good coach or a bad coach before?
And he did his rookie year as a Giants coach. I thought he did a great job. And you see that team making progress. You really do.
Their coach. You saw the Giants play for them. They may not have won those games, but they weren't quitting and they were playing with a game plan. And that's what you want. You want guys listening to their coach and their coach being liked.
All right, Joe, I'm going to let you go in a moment because I have a lot more to do in this remaining time on Sports with Rich here live on YouTube. You're a hockey guy, and as much as more than I am, that's for sure. Briefly, what's wrong with the Rangers here in New York? It seems like they can't get the power play going. It seems like they may not have been able to adjust without Lundqvist at goal. What's wrong with them?
Well, let's put it to you this way: Lundqvist wouldn't have been in goal anyway this year if they didn't buy him.
Right.
Not. Remember, he has heart surgery, so hopefully he gets better and moves on with his life. Even if he doesn't play another NHL game. But they put the money on the 2 young goalies in Georgiev and Shesterkin. And Shesterkin is supposed to be, the next big thing. And it looks like he may have taken a step or 2 back. But that's what happens when you have these young guys. They all can't be Lundqvist when that he moves in and he sits in the goal and you don't get rid of him for 15 years. They all can't be that way. So it's going to take some time. It's going to take some patience. Remember, it's a very young team. And outside of maybe Jacob Trouba and Paninin and those guys, you don't have too many old veterans on this team.
Yeah.
Chris Kreider is another one on there too.
But he was my favorite Ranger. Remember that? Remember? I used to always tell you that was always my favorite Ranger.
Okay. All right.
Hey, Joe, I got to go, and we could talk on and on and on. We always do anyway off the air. But hopefully we'll be back at the ballpark in April, and I'm going to have you on again real soon The show is going to get bigger and better, and I want you to be a part of it here at Sports with Rich Live on YouTube. And we'll talk as we get closer to baseball. And there's a ton more to talk about. We got to touch with you on the NBA, and I want to catch up with you on the tennis because you're very versed in that sport. And I know you're looking forward to going back to Flushing, hopefully, for the U.S. Open, because I know that's your
It would be a
favorite
nice
place.
thing.
I know that.
It'd be a nice thing, that we can get back to a ballpark sometimes.
Hope we get back to normalcy. My best to you and the family, and
Yep.
I thank you again for being in my corner all these years. And I continue to write for a great website, NewYorkSportsDay.com, of which you founded, and now it's in even bigger hands too. But you're still a major part of the operation, and I really appreciate you coming on with me tonight. Joe McDonald, thank you, my friend. Keep it in the ring.
No, you too, Rich. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. More to come with Joe McDonald here on Sports with Rich in the weeks to come. And hey, Joe touched on it. Baseball. We did a little of everything here. We talked Mets. We talked Yankees. We talked about, of course, the National League East and how the Padres are faring in the National League West with all the reinforcements they've made. And of course, he gave his touch. Made some good points about the Jets. And he made some good points about the NFL and the Jets. And of course, we're going to get into tennis with him because that's a major sport. Now, Warren, my producer, is handling the controls. Is Joe off Zoom right now?
He's still on.
Okay, Joe is gone now. Bye-bye, Joe. I hate to see you go, but he'll be on again with us. Now, let me tell you what we're going to be doing here in the weeks to come. Now that we're getting this in control, Warren is working hard on this. And eventually we're going to get into a studio. But in that time, with the pandemic and everything, we're doing this YouTube Live Sports with Rich and the format it is. And with Zoom and YouTube combining, and we're doing it together. And in the weeks to come, probably next week, maybe later this week, you'll be able to see yourself participating in the Cube, asking questions that I and others who will come on the air with me are able to answer, their input. That's so important. I want this to be a show, not about me, for you. And I want others to contribute to go over their expertise, people I know in the industry, people I work with, writers, broadcasters, and some of the athletes who are involved too that I talk to often and keep in touch with that can maybe come on and contribute. There's a lot going on. During this pandemic, the last 10 months, we've been home. And we've been trapped, but sports has been, again, as I keep telling you, that diversity for us. It's been the outlet for us. It's been the diversion away from all the crap we've been through the last year. And, short sports was shut down briefly, but sports resumed. And we have our teams and we have our leagues and we have our games and we're consumed with it. And we're going to have a continuation of a lot more in the months ahead with the vaccine, hopefully in everybody's arm and getting there slowly but surely. Maybe you and I can get back to the ballpark and be at the venues we want to be to watch our favorite teams and players on the field and in the arenas. And I think that'll happen. We just don't know when. We have what they call this immunity and we could all get back there. But in the meantime, there are many shows like this. And then I'm not saying that Sports with Rich is going to be the top one on the internet. By all means, there are so many better other shows. I thank you for your continued support, and I thank you for your continued patience now and over the years. But I realize that I'm not the only one doing this. I mean, you can do it yourself at home. It's very easy with technology now as compared to being actually in the business, getting in a studio or getting on get on a laptop, use technology, know what you're doing. Bingo, you got a show. It's that easy. But the prestigious and having the prestige and the reputation does help, and getting the right people on makes it a good show. And that's what I'm basically trying to say. That's what I'm going to try and do the best I can to the best of my ability. So help me God. Do I sound like I'm being sworn in to be president of the United States? No, I'm just making a declaration to you to tell you it's not easy to do this, and we're getting there. So in the weeks to come, again, you can contribute, ask questions, and we maybe get that live call format in here where you can call and we can talk direct and get your opinion because we want you to participate. I want you to spread the word about Sports with Rich. I want you to get it out there. And what you do is go to YouTube. If you already haven't, tell others to like, comment, and of course, most of all, subscribe. It won't cost you nothing. And hit that bell option where you can know when we'll be on the air live, or we're going to be on with a new video or a live format it is tonight. And you'll know when we're on, and you can participate. And that's what I want. That's what I hope for. But there's so much going on in sports. And with baseball right around the corner, God willing, there'll be no interruptions, and we get the final details about rules and the dates. We have game season, there will be more games than that. A full complement of 162. I heard today, probably not. But then again, that's what I'm hearing, and that's not final. And of course, the NBA is in full swing again, and we have the NHL in full swing. And we're going to have, looks like, normalcy with tennis, with the major Grand Slams tournaments they have, and golf, and maybe we're a normal date for the Masters in April in Augusta, Georgia, and the Indy 500. And you know, I'm hearing that even if you're a horse racing fanatic, as I am, that the Kentucky Derby and the Triple Crown will go off as planned starting in May, early May, with the Kentucky Derby, and we'll have a normal series in the Triple Crown of horse racing. So there might be normalcy being restoring with the dates with sports, but we don't know if you or I will be able to go to a venue, stadium, arena, so forth, and watch this. And if so, how many? Now, next Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday down in Tampa, there will be 22,000 fans at Raymond James Stadium. And a lot of those are first responders that will be invited. It's going to have a Super Bowl atmosphere, but it won't be like the Super Bowl where you would have 65, 70,000 people at that stadium outdoors. Regardless, you're still going to have the NFL championship game known as the Super Bowl, and two good teams that are going to be vying for the NFL championship, and commend the NFL, just like I've done with MLB, for putting on a season with some interruptions, but not major, and they got by it. And yeah, there will be 22,000 fans in attendance, as is they're doing that in boxing right now. And I commend the boxing world for trying. As a boxing guy, I'm happy to see that some major fights are being discussed and that some major fights have been signed here in the new year as we kick off. Canelo Alvarez, the face of boxing as he is, as I call him, is scheduled to fight maybe 2 times this year, including sometime around May 5th, Cinco de Mayo, and in Texas. And Texas has been a home for boxing throughout this pandemic. And they've been able to get at least 15, 20,000 people into AT&T Stadium in Dallas or the Alamo in San Antonio, Texas. And of course, they're following all safety medical protocols as they have to. But boxing should be commended for doing that. Top Rank is going to start up again in a couple of weeks on ESPN and their platforms. And again, they're going to their closed venue bubble situation at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas, Nevada, at the Conference Center, with the hopes that Top Rank will open up the doors to fans again soon, outdoors, maybe at the MGM Arena inside, or T-Mobile Arena, or even the new Allegiant Stadium out there in Las Vegas. Boxing's got a lot of good fights coming up in the new year. The one fight fans want to see, that I want to see, that may happen, I heard late today, Bob Arum is all for the Spence Crawford fight to unify the welterweight title. But he says the problem isn't in Al Heyman at the PBC, it's Spence and what he wants. So that war keeps going on. If it's not Al Heyman in the PBC, it's Earl Spence, who is holds most of the belts in the competitive welterweight division. But the division to look out for in boxing, as I always say, if it's not super middleweight, we're going to see a good fight this weekend on Fox, PBC. Philippe Plant and Travix. There's the lightweight division. Teofimo Lopez, one of them. Deontay Davis, another. That is the division in boxing, and also 140. And you have Jose Ramirez looking to unify that whole division. So, boxing is strong, and yet it isn't that strong because it's not drawing the fans. The fans are not, most of the venues are not operating. Fans are not going, not in the arenas, but the TV ratings have been a little disappointing, which disappoints me. And I think it has a lot to do with the pandemic and related to that. And fans want to see the big mega fights. And I believe that will happen. It's just going to take a little more time and waiting until the promoters have the money to put those fans in the seats, to open the door to the gates. And that happens when the vaccine is in just about 75% of the people's arms around this country. So let's see where that goes. But boxing strong and not so strong. Let's face it, folks. It's not on the high it was pre-pandemic, but it can get there. Excuse me. Gotta remember, boxing's a sport where you fight and come back. It's been down before. It'll come back again. Okay? So I'm going to wrap this up tonight, Warren. I think we're going to wrap it up here on YouTube Live and on Zoom. My thoughts on the WWE Royal Rumble. I've been getting some people have been asking me about where's the direction of WWE. Well, they have no direction. What you see is what you get. AEW is the promotion. I just hope they can get bigger and bigger. But this weekend, I do expect Goldberg to lose to McIntyre. I don't think McIntyre's going to drop the belt for one time a year Goldberg wrestler. And I see the Bray Wyatt Fiend character returning at the Royal Rumble this Sunday. That I can say. Just I'm speculating about that. And I'm very excited about the Divas division in WWE that continues to draw a lot of interest. Where does the Charlotte Flair, Ric Flair situation go? And I'd like to see that come to an end again. The second time they're doing that. And yet WWE storylines are very predictable at times, and sometimes you don't know what direction they're going. But the Royal Rumble is this Sunday, and it always is smacked in between the week before the Super Bowl. And next week on the air, Sports with Rich here live on YouTube. We'll go more into the Super Bowl. Remember, like, comment, subscribe, and we'll talk to some of the football experts, I hope, some more baseball personnel. But you have to like, comment, and subscribe to know when I'm going to be on live or when you're going to see a new video come up. So remember, reach me, Twitter, Ring786, Facebook.com, Rich Mancuso. Of course, here at YouTube, you'll find out Instagram, Mancuso786. I'm on NewYorkSportsDay.com. We can read my material, LatinoSports.com, Mets MMO, MetsMemorize.com. I'm all over the place. Let's put it that way. You got to make a living in this business, and I work at it a lot. Okay? So, fans, thanks for tuning in. Stay in touch. Follow me. Like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you, Joe McDonald, again. That was a great segment. We touched a little bit here, a little bit there. I want to thank you all. Be safe, be good to each other. And as always, keep it in the ring. I'm Rich Mancuso.